Now that everybody's kind of been working on it for, I guess we're coming up on like 2.5 years, what do you think is probably each of your favorite things you've added or noticed added to Database Health Monitor?
I mean, I know mine if anyone else wants to go first, but
Go for it.
the job history report, I I don't remember the exact situation that came up, but we wanted to visualize a really easy way to see how long jobs were stacking up against each other, how long they were taking to run. And it took me a month of tweaking here and there, and then we finally deployed it. We used it to schedule a bunch of maintenance periods because a client was running. They were running some overnight processes that were business, like they were required for business, but they were also needing to run their maintenance stuff overnight as well to reduce impact during daytime operations. And to see that some of the maintenance and some of the business process were overlapping and causing a massive slowdown at a certain time period, and just being able to adjust it based on the visuals was a huge, huge help compared to trying to dig through the SQL Server agent and the job history there to see and compare numbers instead of a visualization of it.
And it's interesting because with that report, it's always a challenge to figure out where you're going to put that check DB or when are you going to run those backups. And that report just gives a great way to visualize it and be able to see the holes in the pattern and figure out where to drop those things in. Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing, it's such a minor feature, but a lot of those maintenance tasks can be really CPU heavy, and just hammer it so the top bar shows your CPU usage. So you can see if you're going to schedule it during an already CPU heavy time, so you can free up resources looking at it.
Yeah, and that was an interesting one because that little CPU chart in there that shows what the CPU load is when those are going on, that wasn't there in the initial plan. But as we started using it, we realized it'd be really nice to have that. And then next thing you know, it was in there. So
yeah, I think it was like a day of flipping back and forth between our CPU charts and the job history charts. We're like, what if we just put them together?
Awesome. All right, George, what's your favorite feature?
I mean, I think it was one that Derek had requested. It was one of those, like, we can see well, I guess I should just say the feature right away. It's the disk IO overtime report. It was one where Derek, I think, was working with a client and he noticed the IO was really heavy when, like, he had noticed through like a couple other different queries that the disk IO was the biggest impact on the queries, but it's not one of the things that's necessarily as obvious as like CPU or memory or CPU or memory. And it's just one of those, like, you just assume your disks are good. You assume they're fast enough, but we ran this report on a client right away, and it was like, I think it was like 8 seconds of latency on the disks right away. And we're like,
8 seconds, not 8 milliseconds, 8,000 milliseconds.
8,000 milliseconds of latency on the disks. And we're like, okay. And then we looked further into it, and I think it was a really disk heavy query, or we realized that they were just running really, really old drives.
Yeah, that's a great one. And I don't know how many different performance assessments that I've worked on since we added that, where we've been able to either confirm that they've got good IO or to point out that they've got IO issues, and maybe IO issues on just your TempDB drive or IO issues on a specific drive. And to be able to fix those by moving things around or adding more disks and being able to see the difference is just really, really cool. So yeah, that's a good one.
The really cool thing about that one too is if TempDB is on its own disk, you can really like narrow down that you're TempDB heavy.
You brought up, Steve, the performance assessment. The disk latency is one that we immediately go to if we see that if drive files are all in the same drive, or sorry, if TempDB data and log files are all in the same drive. It's a great way to show why that disk is getting hammered. And if they separate it out, it's showing the night and day difference. At 99% of the time, there's a huge night and day difference when you move those files around to new drives, that it shows how much value is brought when you do those changes.
Yeah, and with that, I mean, it is the best practice to put your data files on a different drive than your log files, that's on a different drive than your tempdb, that's also on a different drive, hopefully different server than your backup. And none of that should go on your C drive, of course. And I've seen a lot of people over the years, they just tell people, well, you got to do this. Well, the difference is when we do that performance assessment, we can go in and look and say, well, yeah, maybe you've got them all on the same drive, but you're not having performance issues, so we're okay. For whatever reason, that may stay there, even though there's some good reasons to put the log on a different drive. But we can also go in and show them that, yeah, you can see that the latency is just stupid on this drive, for lack of a better term on it, and that by moving things around, you can fix it. And that is such a good feeling to be able to show people that, let them do it, and then be able to show how well it's performing after the fact because of that change.
All right, Steve, what was your favorite feature?
So I had two in mind, and I know I only get to answer one. So I'm going to go with the SQL Performance Viewer. So early on with Database Health Monitor, when we were doing performance work and specifically working with like a client that was doing load testing and things like that, I would have like 4 different versions of database or 4 different instances of Database Health Monitor running, all with different charts open. I'd see the what is active chart, I'd see the blocking, I'd see like CPU and stuff like that. And it just got annoying to manage so many windows being open in order to track all that. So that's when I built the program, our Performance Viewer program, which basically takes a number of those same reports and puts it into one program that you can run and watch all of those things at once while you're doing load tests or while you're assessing performance issues on the server. And then just recently in the last update, we added a couple of new reports into that and refactored it a bit. So we've got things like high CPU queries are showing up in it. Thank you, George, for adding that one. We've got things like what weights are being reported and be able to get reporting on blocking and all that kind of stuff. So that one is my favorite because it adds so much value when a client is saying we're having performance issues right now. We can run that and look at it and help figure out exactly why those performance issues are happening.
Thanks for watching. I'm Steve, and I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you like it, please click the thumbs up icon. And if you want to subscribe, click subscribe to our channel and click the bell icon to get notified when we have new videos. All right, have a great day.